Hello friends, and welcome back to Prison Architect. It's me, Astro. I'm here with you. I hope you're having a lovely day, morning, evening, whatever time it may be for you. So, guys, I've got some bad news. Um, so the last two episodes that I recorded, one of them is on the screen at the moment, the next one we'll get to shortly. Well, I went through and recorded those two episodes, and, had a great time playing the game, enjoyed myself immensely, put them aside, and then when I came back to edit them, well, the audio sounded like this. Nothing. Absolute silence. Because the, the mute button on my microphone was on for both of those, and I utterly didn't realize. So, well, I thought, let's Bob Ross this all the way, and let's just treat this as a happy little accident. I mean, last night when I went to do my editing and I realized that this was the case, I luckily had a shenanigans video of me playing some PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which I was able to pull together. But I thought, I don't want to let this go to waste. I don't want you to tune into the prison and see a whole bunch of new stuff going on, a whole bunch of stuff that you don't remember seeing being built. That wouldn't do too well. So I'm going to run through it. I'm going to talk over what I was doing at the time and what I was planning to do. We'll do it in post, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, this might work out quite well. It might be utter trash. I guess we'll have to find out. I mean, after all, I am very new to YouTube. I've only been here for a couple of weeks now. I'm very much enjoying it so far. I really enjoy recording videos. I really enjoy seeing, people subscribe and like my videos, and knowing that people out there are enjoying them. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's really cool. I mean, I know that some people have said that the glory days of YouTube are behind us and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't matter to me. I'm not doing it for anything other than something fun to do, and I want to share these wonderful games that I enjoy playing with people who may be like me and enjoy watching people enjoying and playing games. And there's many people that I enjoy watching, playing Prison Architect, playing Gary's mod, playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, you name it. There's plenty of stuff that I very much enjoy. And I thought, well, maybe someone will enjoy watching me and it'll give them another choice. So I hope that's what I'm providing for you. So what we were up to in the prison, we were building out that new services wing on the right-hand side over there. But I decided that these guys need a visitation room, so you can see me popping that in here. And it's pretty good. I mean, the visitation room, it'll help to keep these guys happy and under control. It'll mean that they'll be able to fill their family requirement. At the moment, they've got some telephones down in the canteen there, but nothing beats having a face-to-face meeting with your family. It's nice. It's enjoyable. So hopefully that visitation room should help out with that. And over here in the new services wing, well, that's where, we kind of earmarked this out as, we don't need visitation now. We need things like a library, a mail room. Mail rooms are great. So they also, there's a couple of things that a mail room is going to do for you and going to help you with in your prison. First of all, it's going to definitely help with the family side of things and the contact that your prisoners have with their families, which is excellent. We always want to give these people what they need. But it also gives them something to do. Now, the tricky part with a mailroom, though, and the thing that I've found over my time playing this game, is that unless you have a sufficient mailroom for the number of prisoners in that wing or in that section of the prison, be it, in this case, a medium security prison or what have you, unless you spec that correctly, you can run into troubles where your delivery area gets overrun with mailbags. So you need enough sorting tables and either prisoners. I mean, prisoners is the ideal type of person that you want working in the mailroom because it gives them something to do, and hey, it's free labor. You don't need to hire someone to do it. But if you don't want to hire prisoners, you need to have, and the trick with the mailroom is you need to have guards with unassigned duties, because the guards will actually sort the mail for you if you don't have any prisoners assigned to do so. Or if your prisoners are committed to doing other things. So let's say, for example, that you have 5 prisoners assigned to a mailroom, but all 5 of them just happen to be in parole hearings that day. Well, that's fine, as long as you have 5 guards standing by, which I almost have. I have 3 at the moment. 2, okay. So, as long as I had enough guards standing by, spare, during that period where the mailbags come in first thing in the morning, they'd actually pop into the mailroom and start sorting mail for me, which is great, and delivering the mail out to all of the prisoners. So it'd help me to sort of, yeah, keep that mail flowing through the prison and making sure that it doesn't gum up my deliveries room. Because the risk is, if that deliveries area gets too congested, it will delay the intake of new materials that you need to build things. So let's say you build a new laundry and you want to slap down a bunch of ironing boards, they're going to get stuck on the back of a truck parked out in the road waiting to have somewhere to unload. Or even worse, it's going to delay the intake of food. And food is something that you don't really want to have sitting out in the street for too long. I mean, aside from the fact that, you know, if you want to RP it, it's going to get rancid. But the primary reason that you don't want the food out there for too long is because, well, if it doesn't get to the kitchens, it doesn't get cooked. And if it doesn't get cooked, your prisoners are going to go hungry. And if your prisoners go hungry, bad things happen. And you don't want bad things to happen. So in my mailroom here, you can see I've set up 4 sorting tables, which should be enough for a block this size, and then 3 tables. So basically, when the mailbags come in, you'll see them get delivered onto the tables. Prisoners will sort of sort them out, and you'll go from these big sacks of mail into these, you know, little blue satchels, which are ready for delivery to the prisoners. So behind that, the next one down is the laundry. The laundry is kind of a necessity, I think. You know, you can get away with not having one for some time, but after a while, your prisoners will start to complain of hygiene. And, you know, aside from a shower in the morning, which always makes them feel better, clothing will help your prisoners feel more comfortable and more healthy. So, a washing machine in the top left-hand corner of the screen there is where all of the dirty laundry from their cells, after they've had their shower, they'll dump their dirty laundry in their cell. Someone will go around and pick up all that dirty laundry and bring it back up to the laundry machines. It'll then get ironed by whoever's on duty, and, you know, the same with the mailroom. The guards would be doing that if there weren't any prisoners. In the laundry, if you don't have any prisoners assigned, you'll need janitors to do that cleaning for you, because, well, that's what janitors do. They keep things clean. But you can imagine that having janitors assigned to do all of these tasks and having guards spare to do all the mail can be an expensive enterprise. And that's part of the reason why prisoner wages, or hiring prisoners to do this, is a much better idea. You'll be able to see the evidence of that at some point. The next time we open up our finance window, and I obviously can't open that for you now because we're adding this in post. But in the finance window, you'll see, yeah, staff wages will be, you know, huge, but the prisoner wages will be a fraction of that, because we pay them bugger all, because why would we want to give them heaps of money? And there's not as many of them. So it means that you can run your guards close to the wire and use prisoners like this to do what you need to do. So at this point I'd realized that I hadn't put any jobs in this area whatsoever. So The good thing about mailroom, cleaning cupboard, laundry is that there really is no barrier for entry. Any prisoners can go in there. You can see I've placed those prisoners in. They're just going to trot straight in and start shoving laundry into laundry machines. The guys in the mailroom are just sitting there waiting for mail to be delivered. Everything's fine. With the kitchen, you'll need to make sure that your prisoners have a kitchen hygiene, a basic kitchen hygiene course. The basic kitchen hygiene? I'm doing this from memory. At any rate, the kitchen hygiene course is required to make sure that your prisoners know that they shouldn't rub the raw chicken on the vegetables, for example, you know, and they should wash their hands and all of that standard stuff that you would expect prisoners maybe not to know, but a cook knows how to wash his hands, so maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a hand washing course. But it's very good to have them go through and do that so that then they can go and work in the kitchen. And even if they're not preparing the food, they're going to help with hauling the food from the stove out to the serving tables, and they'll also help with collecting the dirty dishes at the end of the mealtime. So you'll see in my kitchen there are 2 cookers with a fridge in between, and I kind of do that as an efficiency mechanism. It means that because cooks are inherently lazy, when they need to do something, they will go to the closest possible place where that thing exists. So if they need to put something on the stove, they'll go to the closest fridge and grab something from that fridge. When they need to haul food in from the delivery area, they'll take all of that food to the closest kitchen, and if there's space in that kitchen, they will absolutely dump it there. So that's kind of a thing to be careful of. If you've got, you know, a kitchen that is relatively large, close by to your delivery area, you can sometimes wind up with a lot of your food being delivered there, whereas a further away kitchen might not have enough to feed the population in that wing. So it's... Oh, hello, there's a fight going on. A very big fight. Ah, yes, I remember this. Yeah, that's why I remember it. We'll come back to the kitchen in a moment. Let's have a talk about this. So, yeah, a bunch of guys decided to start a bit of a biffo in the canteen during canteen time, or during eat time, and somehow managed to get through 3 doors and run out the top of the map. And you can see me patrolling about with my Dirty Harry pistol here, making sure that no one feels lucky, because that was actually a surprise for me. I really didn't understand why that had happened. And when I did some research later on, well, it turns out that, so when I built this prison, originally we built it in standard mode, and we built it in update 12. And then one of my subscribers pointed out that update 13 had been released, and I thought, hey, great, I'll just run through the recordings that I have, and then I was going to sell the prison and, you know, use that money to buy a new prison which I was going to build from scratch. But I was kind of attached to what I had built so far. You know, that maximum security side of the prison was functioning fairly well. I thought that it was, you know, relatively efficient and could stand to be kept. And so there is actually a way. There's a post that I saw. I think it was in either in the Steam forum or in Reddit. I'm not sure. I'll post the link down below. Which explained how you can go into the save file for your prison. So the first thing I had to do, the prison was saved in the cloud, so I had to save it to a local file, open that local file, save a new Warden mode prison, open that file, and then do a little bit of copying and pasting from the new Warden mode prison into... Hello, there's another biff going on. So yes, paste some stuff from the Warden mode prison into a regular prison, and that would allow me to play my existing prison in Warden mode. And unfortunately, when I did that, I thought I'd be cheeky and put on a couple of mods. Or mutators, I should say. So one of the mutators that I put on was one which was called Weird Reputations. And so your standard reputations are things like volatile, stoical, so on and so forth. And they essentially, for the most part, they just change how violent or, you know, how troublemaky your prisoners are. And what I didn't realize is that turning on this new mod, and you know what, it's on now, so I'm committed to it, I'm going to keep it. This new mod adds a few additional ones, which we'll see pop up a little bit later on. But the one that directly contributed to that escape of 3 prisoners was, well, there were 2. One is pickpocket, and we actually saw that last episode, if I remember correctly. And the other one is escape artist. So the pickpocket is terrible because it means that people can go ahead and take prisoners, guards' keys out of their pockets. And the escape mode just makes it much, much quicker, at least the way it seems to me. It makes it much, much quicker for them to be able to breach a door. So they can do what we just saw, where they can just blast through 3 doors in what would normally take some time, in a matter of seconds, and they're out. The thankful bonuses on that one is that I've turned on one where the guards are a little bit tougher. They can take a bit more of a beating and they can give a bit more of a beating, but that doesn't seem to have helped terribly in this particular instance. And also, the one thing, and I'll admit it, I turned on the mod called No Tunneling. Because as soon as I started playing Warden mode, it's difficult enough to get from one side of the prison to see what's going on in a fight, or in, you know, some kind of upheaval within the prison. But in order to zip from one side to the other to see where a tunnel is being dug, to me, it seemed like it was going to break the flow of the prison a little bit too much. So I actually turned off tunneling. So the only way for prisoners to get out is for them to bust out through the front door, like what we just saw. Which is, you know, look, I did it because I thought it'd improve the flow, but I also just fracking hate tunnels. They're a real pain, and it's always just a very difficult thing to deal with, especially when you know, combine that with... I can't even imagine what having escape artists would be like if tunnels were enabled. I think that that would be an utter nightmare. So, part of the reason why prisoners are going to always try and escape, and you can see me here checking the needs. Down in the bottom of the needs tab there's a thing where you can select which security level you want to look at, or you can look at all prisoners if you want to. So in this case, it's recreation that the guys in medium security seem to need. So as a result, we've popped in a common room here. So there's a couple of things there that are going to help. The pool table, always a good one. There's a big TV with a couple of couches in front of it, which the prisoners can sit down and catch up on some boob tube. There are 2 TVs also in the canteen there. I don't know if you saw that, but we'll scroll back past it in a moment. You can see they're just next to the serving tables, either side of the TV, the benches and tables, which I've just highlighted miraculously. TVs have a bloom, like an area, and there's not really any way to see that as far as I know. If there is, do let me know in the comments. But that bloom will help to just keep your prisoners calm. And, yeah, it'll help to satisfy that recreation need. We also have the wake benches out here and a bit of room to run around in the yard, which should help. But more is always better. The more bits and pieces that you can get, and the more efficiently you can provide that need to your prisoners, the calmer they will be and the less you'll have to spend. I mean, the simplest way would be to build a cell for the prisoner that has a weights bench, a TV, a radio, a bookshelf, a prayer mat, all of the bits and bobs that you would need, and then lock them down for most of the day, with the exception of eat time, and then like 2 hours of free time to give them, enough time to sort of satisfy their freedom requirement. But to lock them up in a prisoner, like in a cell that has all of those things, sure, you're going to keep most of the things that you need satisfied, but your prisoners are going to cost you. See, there's a guy there with pickpocket and escape artist, and that's exactly the sort of person that's causing problems for us. Anyway, I digress. Building those massive cells is ridiculously expensive. I mean, not terribly, but look, it's inefficient to build a television per prisoner. Let's say they cost $300. That's $300 per prisoner that you're going to have to outlay. Whereas if you just put 2 in the canteen, then during that 2-hour block, morning and night, or morning, noon and night, if you've got 3 eat times, during that block, while they're eating and satisfying their food requirements, they're also going to be getting some recreation, because they've got the telly running and they can tune into that as well. So it's a little bit of multitasking, and 2 TVs in this case is going to serve, I think there's like 26 prisoners in my normal security and my medium security wing here. So there's one in the common room as well, let's say 3, versus 26 televisions. So it's much more efficient to just have those items in communal areas where they can affect many people at the same time. So in addition to doing a shakedown a little while ago to collect any keys that may be floating about, and I wish there was, while I'm thinking about it, I really wish there was a way that you could specify to shake down just a single block. I think that would be lovely. But in addition to doing a shakedown to search for more keys, I've also placed a guard on patrol in the reception. And the next thing that we're going to do, as part of this episode, is to research out sniper towers. Sniper towers are a great last line of defense. A final word to stop your prisoners escaping, because they won't necessarily, they won't kill the prisoners with each shot. They'll generally fire a warning shot first, which will discourage your prisoners from going any farther. But having them there is that final line of defense and deterrent against prisoners legging it out of the prison. Now in this case, I'm very, because I've turned off tunneling, I don't have to worry about putting sniper towers all the way out in the prison. I can just put 2 of them at either side of this main road, because for any prisoners to get out, they're going to have to come out through these front doors. And so, as a result, there where I'm pointing is where the first one's going to go, and then there'll be another one down the bottom. Sniper towers, excellent. They are a little bit expensive. Oh, hello. Another escape attempt. So sniper towers are a little bit expensive. And the snipers themselves are quite pricey. So, in the echelons of how expensive your staff or your guard staff are, standard guards are the cheapest, and then I think it's armed guards and then dog patrols and then snipers. I believe that they're about $500 to purchase, and then I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how much they are on a daily basis, but they're relatively expensive. So you've kind of got to be, you've got to be in a good financial position before you start pushing into sniper towers. Unless you have really serious problems with escapes, it's something that you can worry about later on. The same goes with perimeter fences. Perimeter fences are generally, you know, your sort of first step to stop, you know, and protect against tunneling. If you put a perimeter fence a good distance away from your prison, then your dudes are going to have to, when they want to get out, they're going to have to tunnel all the way from their cell. And let's say that the perimeter fence is 30 blocks away. They're going to have to tunnel all the way to that perimeter fence to escape the prison. I mean, the ideal scenario, and what I have in my big normal security cash cow prison, is nice big prison, and then I unlocked all 4 tiles around that prison, so I have a massive dead zone around it, then a perimeter fence, and then sniper towers outside of the perimeter fence. But that's a very profitable prison, where I can afford to have, I think there's about 12 snipers dotted around that map, at however much they cost a day. Oops, I managed to place down a tiny square of workshop in the middle of the yard. So yes, however much they happen to cost, and I can't remember exactly what that is, that prison can afford it. This one, no way. Oh yeah, I forgot that I accidentally de-zoned the workshop when I was trying to... Do you remember when I was trying to figure out where the tools were coming from and I couldn't figure it out because I'm a noob? Yeah, that's one of the challenges that I've not done actually in the past, so whoopsie daisy. So in this case, I de-zoned that room. When you de-zone a room, you're going to lose any jobs that were assigned to it, so you have to re-add those. I'm pretty sure that guard patrols and guard appointments, like if you have a guard and he's just stationed in that room, they will stay where they are because it's assigned to a physical area, whereas the jobs are assigned to a room, so the floor tiles are what the jobs are anchored to in the game. So, what else have we been up to? I mean, you've got the new library there. That's working out quite nicely. Libraries are a way to boost the literacy of your prisoners. It's generally very handy for high sec. They generally have a higher need for that, as far as my understanding or as far as my observations go. MinSec or medium security, they do have that requirement, but it's, you know, sort of middle of the road. And MinSec don't really have that requirement. I suppose they're, you know, white collar criminals. They're more educated already. I'm not sure exactly what the logic behind it is, but that's the way that it works out. They don't quite need that sort of thing. Their needs are tuned in a different way. So that's part of the fun of this game, is figuring out what different classes of prisoner require and tuning each wing so that it's acceptable for that group. And part of the reason why segregating prisoners into separate wings is such a good idea, aside from the fact that, you know, if you put normal security guys minimum security in the same area as max sec or super max, they're just going to die. They're just going to get mooted. It's a bad thing to do. So, here we go. Time for our sniper tower. So, 3,000 schmackers for the tower itself. And as I said, because we've got this nice sort of corridor section here, we just need one top and bottom of this, because those are the two real sort of escape routes that prisoners are going to choose. They do take a little while to build, as you'll see, but that's okay. It's you know, this is a game of patience. There you go, $2,000 to place the snipers down, and then they'll toddle off to the armory. So, you know, if you want to be efficient, place them directly in the armory, where they'll go and pick up a sniper rifle, and then they'll go and hang out in the sniper tower. So, in an effort to save a little bit of money in this one, I only placed 2 of those snipers down. So there he is, sitting up in his tower. I only placed 2 of them down because I was kind of conscious of, I want to keep a good positive cash flow coming in to the prison. I don't want to waste too much cash on these 2 guys, because look, the likelihood that they're actually going to be required is, it's not every day they're going to be required, and what I'm driving at here is you should have 3. You should have a spare 1 or 2, because when one of them needs to go for a break, they're going to leave that tower unattended. And I'm kind of gambling on, okay, if one of them does need to go for a break, hopefully an escape won't happen at that time. But it's a risk, you know, it's something that you've got to balance out. So the other thing that's just come to my attention here, or has just occurred to me, is that we've built out this whole new section, and part of the reason why these guys are so stroppy, and I don't think I saw it in the needs list, which is a bit odd. Normally you would see temperature, or warmth, I should say, as part of the thing that they're complaining about. But in this case, I've utterly forgotten to put down any radiators in the medium security wing. So, thankfully it's not too difficult. Radiators aren't terribly expensive. They're a little bit fiddly to plumb in, especially if you don't have any boilers, which thankfully we set all the boilers out correctly. We just never get around to putting the bloody radiators in. Boilers are... Uh-oh. Oh, yes. A fire has started. I'll come back to the boilers in a moment. So, first thing that I did when the fires... when I heard that the fires were coming in, because I knew I haven't placed anything to protect against fire, the first thing I did was press the emergencies button and call in a set of firefighters who stupidly ran straight through the fire. But I'm assuming they're wearing Nomex suits, so that's fine. And they're going to go ahead and put that fire out. Now, this is a bit problematic because not having any fire protection or fire suppression sprinklers in this area means that I've had to pay a little extra to get these the fireys into the place. And it also means that I've not done the other needful thing, which is to place drains around. So you could see then that the entire area is flooded. Thankfully it cleaned up rather quickly, but flooding an area like that when a fire is occurring can actually cause you more trouble. So if that flooding, for example, hits a generator, that generator is going to explode. And then that's going to cause a secondary fire. So it's something to be mindful of. I'm not sure if there's anything else that does blow up when it gets wet, but yeah, generator is definitely one of those things. So a little bit later on, I think we're going to go through and add some sprinklers into this prison, just to make sure that, yeah, key areas that do have fires are protected. And those key areas are generally your generator rooms. They're going to have fires, period. It's just going to happen. The kitchen is another good target. I mean, there's cookers in there. There's open flames and all that sort of jazz. Occasionally, the warden will call in because, yep, a fire has begun. And look, I've seen people go to the extent of setting a sprinkler in every single room, which is not bad, because if a prisoner does smuggle a lighter into their room, it can cause a fire that can take out a good portion of your prison. So it is something to be mindful of and decide whether or not you want to, you know, the same goes with anything else in this game. Is it worthwhile building a sprinkler in every single room, or can you get away with just having things in critical areas? Are you happy with losing 3 or 4 cells because you haven't had sprinklers in each of those cells? It's the balancing act. Balancing out how much do you need versus how much do you want to spend. If you've got all the money in the world because you've got a minimum security prison that's just rotating people out on parole every 30 seconds, great, go for your life. Build a crazy huge prison. But if you're struggling and hard up for cash like I frequently am in this playthrough, yeah, you've got to pick and choose your battles, as it were. Yeah, so here we are. All those heaters are going to start coming online now, or radiators, I should say. And as they come online, it should help the prisoners to feel more comfortable while they're cruising about in the prison. Ah, that's the other thing that we didn't build. An infirmary. There is an infirmary in the other side of the prison, but unfortunately, it's reserved for maximum security only. Because we've got that whole wing tagged off as MaxSec, well, yeah, these normal security guys can't go ahead and use it. So we've got to build another one just for them, and that means that when they do get injured because they're trying to escape, or when they get burned because there's been a fire, or horrible, I mean, there's another fight going on right now. So when stuff like this happens, and a guy gets knocked unconscious and handcuffed, and he's bleeding all over the floor, up until this point, I didn't have anywhere to send that dude. So, now that I have an infirmary, those guys will get taken, well, eventually they'll get taken to the infirmary. At the moment, I don't have any doctors to staff that infirmary, because I couldn't quite afford to buy another doctor, or hire another doctor, I should say. We'll go ahead and fix that up in a moment. So what I'm doing at the moment is just checking on the needs tab for the normal security guys, and seeing if there's anything that's really outstanding. There's a couple of things that don't make a huge amount of sense, like exercise family are quite high, even though the prisoners have a good amount of yard time. You know, they have a 2-hour block of yard time every day where they can go out and lift some weights. But it's not sufficient for them, evidently. Or perhaps they're not getting there because most of them are, you know, unconscious. And when you're unconscious, you don't satisfy your needs. So they're lying around unconscious on the floor and then getting upset about not being able to lift weights. It's funny, but it's the way that the needs system is designed. It's a percentage tick per day. But the good news is, now that we've connected those two last radiators up, everything, you know, they're all plumbed in, and the entire place, well, a bit of a furphy here. The entire place is showing 21 degrees, which I took initially to be a success. But you'll notice that the weather up the top of the screen says that it's actually 21 degrees. Yeah. So, not a great indicator just yet. When it gets cold again, we'll be able to see if that's had an effect. And with that many radiators, and there are actually quite a few of them, yeah, it should be totally sufficient to keep this prison warm as it stands. So coming back to our sprinklers, I'm going to place a couple down in the kitchen here. Above each of the cookers. That's usually where a fire will start in a kitchen. And what you'll see me do here is, I don't just draw a line between them and connect them up, I try and connect them up separately. Because, let's say that cooker on the left blows up. If it does go, it's going to knock out the pipes above the cooker. The fire will burn those pipes up. So, you have to kind of be mindful of how that fire is going to start, and how it's going to spread. Because unless you are, all of these lovely sprinklers that you've put down won't have any effect. So you'll see me routing one out the other side of the room here, so if the fire starts on the left, it'll still have a sprinkler, well, you'll have a higher chance of the sprinkler on the right still being active, which is kind of handy. I can see myself passing by all of these inactive radiators here and not connecting those up, which is kind of frustrating. Oh, no, wait. I think they might be offline because of the fact that their pipe has been knocked out. So you'll see in utilities here, see that big pipe there is broken? Yeah, it was the fire that did that. When it burned through the wall, it also burned that pipe out. And as a result, this whole section of the prison is without water. So we'll connect that guy back up, and it's actually not a bad idea to have a secondary link like this. So in the event that that does happen again and the sprinklers can't suppress it, and yada yada yada, well, there's going to be a secondary big pipe that can help to bring water into that side of the prison. And there you go. There's the sprinklers in the maximum security kitchen taken care of and connected out, and then I'll double connect them because I'm bloody paranoid now. Worried that I'm going to have another catastrophe on my hands. It's overkill, but, you know, when you've had a catastrophe, you do tend to go a little bit silly. It's like when you go to the supermarket and you're hungry, you do tend to buy, you know, $500 worth of groceries, as opposed to if you go there and you're totally, you know, comfy and everything's fine, you'll buy like, you know, $100 worth of groceries for the week or whatever it is that you happen to regularly shop for. The other thing to note about the fire, you'll see, so the wall got broken down, but you'll see there's some tiles missing here. So yeah, it's not huge. I mean, you don't need to replace the tiles. I like to because they look pretty and it kind of makes it feel like there's something going on in the prison. It makes it feel like there's, you know, it gives it a little bit of flavour. So if you do have a fire, just check those tiles and see if there are any missing, because you'll need those to make sure that the prison is... sorry, you'll need to replace those if they have been burned. Back over in a normal sec. So, I mean, more things that I'm realizing here and things that we can... And let's plan this out, right? Just looking at this, I can see I have no metal detectors in this side of the prison. That's a definite thing that you should have. Really a good idea to have. I now have some prisoners lying in hospital beds, but they're not getting treated because I don't have any doctors. That's okay. We'll fix that momentarily. But yeah, metal detectors. So there are dudes... I mean, I'm super glad that tunneling has turned off, because if it were on, then dudes would be rolling out of that canteen with forks and spoons and knives and God knows what else, straight back to their cell and tunneling out all the livelong day. We would have escapes all over the shop, and I would undoubtedly be charged for criminal negligence. And if you haven't seen criminal negligence, it's one of the nail-bitiest things that happens in this game. Essentially, if you have too many deaths or too many escapes within a 24-hour period, you get a call from... I can't remember if it's the mayor or the commissioner, I'm not sure. But you get a cranky call from them saying, look, you have performed your job so poorly that if any further people die during the next 24 hours, and you want to get 5, if more than 5 people die during that period, it's criminal negligence and you lose the game. Period. That's it. And you either have to start over, or you have to be a scummy save scummer and reload back to before that random event took place. Or you have to reload... The worst part is when you reload to when the event is underway, and you have to somehow fight against, you know, a prison that may have like a temperature that is just terrifyingly high. It's a very entertaining thing, and if I stuff up badly enough during this playthrough, well, maybe you guys will get to see that. Thankfully, it hasn't happened in a while, and it hasn't happened in this prison. I mean, we got 3 escapes a little while ago. I don't know if there's been any deaths yet. Or if there has, there's only been, you know, the odd one. But yeah, there's not been anything that I've really needed to get slapped about for, so it's thankful. It's a good thing. Well, look, that's about where we're up to. I think at this point... Oh, yes, that's right. At this point, I'm about to experiment with bringing in my one and only confidential informant, which we recruited. When prisoners are in solitary, you can put the squeeze on them and get them to be a snitch for you. You can call them in. They'll come into the security office if you've got a spare chair there for them. You can interrogate them, and they'll tell you if there are any other prisoners. So you can see one on the right-hand side there, which has got the little crosshairs. That's a snitch. And that person is in danger. They're going to potentially get stabbed, get shanked out in the prison proper because, you know what they say about snitches and getting stitches and whatnot. So these guys, ex-law enforcement and a snitch. There you go. It's ideal that you have those guys segregated into their own wing, a protective custody wing. It doesn't matter if they came in as medium sec or high sec or normal sec. As soon as they're popped in there, they seem to kind of behave themselves and do whatever they need to do. And maybe that's because they're actually a good boy and they're a snitch or an ex-law enforcement, or who knows. Although I have seen ex-law enforcement people kill people before, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. And yeah, so popping those guys out into their own wing it's for their own protection. But I think, yeah, coming up, getting some metal detectors down to sort of keep these guys from having access to God knows what is going to be a good idea. And the second thing that we're going to need to do is build out the protective custody wing. Because at the moment, having those guys in standard population is, yeah, it's kind of dangerous. It's kind of silly. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry if this was terrible to watch or listen to. I hope it was maybe something a little bit refreshing. I don't... If you really liked it, let me know. Give me a thumbs up or comment down below. If you disliked it, well, I don't know, thumbs down. Or tell me it sucked. Whatevs. If people like it, maybe I'll do some more like this, where I'm just sitting back and drinking a glass of whiskey and talking about a game while I'm watching myself play it. Kind of surreal, really. Anyway. Thanks, friends. I'll talk to you next time.